Okay, guys, let's go over some of the end behavior and graphing polynomial stuff that we did at the end of last week. So here's a graph that it's already done for us, and it says describe the end behavior. So when I'm talking about end behavior, I'm talking about what happens at the end of the graph past where we can see. Now, at this end right here, that's always going to be x going to positive infinity. At the other end, over here, it's always going to be x going to negative infinity. And then basically we have to figure out what happens to y for both of these. So if I look at this one, it looks like the graph is going to continue to go down, which means that y is going to go to negative infinity because it keeps going down and down and down. If I look at this side, that also continues to go down. So go to negative infinity. Now, if the graph was going up, it'd go to positive infinity. It's really as simple as that. Look over your end behavior stuff. There are several examples on graphs you already have done with descriptions. The other piece that we looked at the end of the week was having a graph and determining key points and being able to graph it. And so here you have f of x equals negative x to the third plus 4x squared minus 4x. Now, we're all good to go on this as far as looking at it, but when they talk about key points, they're talking about y-intercept, x-intercept, and there can be many of them. You want to find all of them. Any relative max and any relative min. Now, those should be actual points. So I want to make sure that you get a good idea of what you need to do on this. Now, the y-intercept we get from the equation, and it's usually the number value that's kind of on the end that doesn't have a value with it, or it doesn't have a variable with it. In this one, you'll notice there's no number on the end, so we have to assume that that's 0. So my y-intercept is going to be 0, which means the point is 0, 0. Now remember, I'm going on that same list that I made before right here. I'm going to go through them right in that order. So to do the x-intercept, I'm going to have to use my calculator, and I'm going to have to do menu 331. Now, there's kind of a couple things. I do have to put that 0 on the end in order for it to have standard form. So let me show you a couple pieces of what the screen's going to look like. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do my menu 331. The big part for me is that I need to change the degree from being 2 to being 3 because the highest exponent here is 3. And I always go through and make sure it's turned on complex. Okay, once I get that, then I'm going to put my numbers in. Now remember, I'm doing these numbers, so I assume there's a -1 there, +4, -4, and 0. So I've plugged all those in. And then I'm going to hit my OK. Okay, so once I do, I'm going to get this. That means that my x-intercepts come from this set. Now, you'll notice that the 2 is repeated. We are not going to repeat it in our list. This tells me that I'm going to have an x-intercept at 0, 0. This tells me I'm going to have an x-intercept at 2, 0. And if I've already got this written here, I do not need to write it a second time. So these are my x-intercepts. Okay, now this is the point where I'm actually going to have to put my graph in my calculator. And remember, you're doing it on the scratch pad. So if I go ahead and put it in my calculator, I'm going to get a graph that looks like this. Now listen, right there is our x and y-intercept, 0, 0. There's 2, 0. That's my other x-intercept. Now my job is to find this point right there, which is my relative min. Now this point is my relative max, but the good news is I've already found that. I know that it's 2, 0. So if I didn't, remember once it's in my calculator, to do my relative max, that's when I use my menu 6, 3. Okay, but since I already know what that is, I'm going to go on and do my relative min, which in my calculator is menu 6, 2. And then I know my relative min is going to be this. So my relative min remember my relative max. Now I'm going to look for this listing, the relative min and max. I'm going to look for you to tell what the x-intercepts are. And I'm going to look for you to tell what the y-intercepts are. Those are all the important values. Okay, now, if it were me after this, all I would need to do to go through is to graph it. Okay, now I'm just going to sketch it. I know you saw it there on your, on the actual picture from my calculator. But we're going to go ahead and sketch the important points. So y-intercept is 0, 0. That's also the first x-intercept. 2, 0 is the other. I have a relative min at 0.67 down negative 1.19. So maybe somewhere in there. Now remember, you're trying to sketch what it looks like. So I would take my pencil then, just trying to get a different color so you can see it. I know that it's going to curve down here at the relative min, curve here at the relative max, and it's going to keep going that way. And this is going to keep going this way. Now, the thing is, you need to make sure you are not making these like a peak. It is not a peak. On this, you're going to go through, and it's got a curve as it goes through there and curve as it goes through there. Okay? Look over your other examples from this week, and that'll be your warm-up tomorrow.